Hello there, I'm Jeff Perro. Welcome to another episode of Catch Up with JP. Today's guest is Mr. Bronswell Patrick. Mr. Patrick is the Athletics Minor League Performance Development Coach. Now I'm sitting here in my van in the dark because I'd already shot an intro video for this episode. And it was like, hey, Bronswell Patrick, Minor League Pitching Development Coach. He was drafted, blah, 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 pitched in the big leagues. But that's not what this show's about. This show's not about numbers and development and OPS and scouting and stuff. This show's about people. So with that said, I want to touch on two aspects of this show. The first one is that this show is about people. Bronswell Patrick and I have never met. So when we first started this conversation, it's the first time we'd ever talked. And there's that little bit of that kind of first date awkwardness of, oh yeah, so yeah, nice to meet you. So tell me a little bit about yourself. But then it quickly develops into two guys who are knowledgeable and passionate about a subject. This chatting becomes a lot of fun. Number two, about how baseball and people. My parents divorced when I was young. My dad lived in Huntsville, Alabama, from the late 80s, early 90s. Little Jeff would fly out to Huntsville every summer. My dad, he's an engineer, and he's really into classical music and Star Trek. My thing. I was really into baseball and baseball cards and baseball. So I'd fly out there every summer. He'd go to work. And then in the evening times, we'd go to Huntsville Stars games. Tons of Huntsville Stars games. My dad, not such a big baseball fan, but he wore it. He'd sit there and watch some batting practice, get autographs signed, stay there for almost the whole game, over and over and over. Mr. Patrick was a starting pitcher with the Huntsville Stars in 1992. I was young. I don't know if I saw him pitch, but he led the team in starts. There's a good chance that I saw Bronswell Patrick pitch in 1992 with the Huntsville Stars. And I just talked to him and kind of said, man, that's just really cool that baseball and the Huntsville Stars and you brought me and my dad closer together when I was 7, 8, 10 years old. So that's why I mentioned that baseball, it's about people. And that's what this show is about, is people. So enough about that. Welcome to today's show with Mr. Bronswell Patrick. A little bit about me. I grew up in Texas. We grew up as Ranger season ticket holders. My parents were divorced. My dad lived in Huntsville. I flew out there every summer from like 89 to about 92, 93.
Yep.
So I'm sure I saw you on the mound. You led the team in starts in 92. So I'm sure I saw you on the mound at one point when I was 14 years old. But yeah, so it's a real pleasure to have you on here.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm happy to do it for you, Jeff. I was fortunate enough to get drafted out of high school in Greenville, North Carolina, out of D.H. County High School, and by the Oakland A's, who I'm currently working for the A's now. Of course, we're no longer in Oakland, so it's the.
I know. I'm trying to train myself to just say the A's because I don't know what the politically correct.
Yeah, it's just the Athletics.
Just the Athletics. Okay.
We're going with the Athletics. So, here I am with the Athletics now, working for them. But as you said, you saw me playing back in Huntsville, Alabama, back in the day, and it was a great experience, especially coming out of high school and getting an opportunity to get drafted out of high school. Losing my father at a young age and being able to still stay on the right track and, make it 10 years in the minor leagues before I eventually made it to the big leagues with the Brewers back in 1998. It was a long journey for me. I'll start back to where it all started for me. Like I said, I got drafted out of high school, played football, baseball, basketball at D.H. County High School. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to get drafted by the Oakland A's at the time and signed my contract and went out to Scottsdale, Arizona. That was my first taste of professional baseball. And it was great because I had some great coaches. Dave Hudgens, he was my manager, who's been around. He's been a hitting coach in the big leagues for a long time. And it was great because he treated us like kids, but at the same time, he pushed us when we needed to be pushed. So it was a great experience for me just being around him the first time, especially as a high school guy coming into professional baseball. He made the transition very easy for me.
And you were drafted when you were 17, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So and you said you lost your dad when you were 14. Is that correct?
Yeah, I lost my dad when I was 14 years old.
You have brothers and sisters?
I have two older sisters. One's living in Greenville, North Carolina, and the other one is out here in Arizona with me, out in Peoria, Arizona, and I'm out in Gilbert, Arizona.
Not too far.
No.
So you were had to be the man in the house, and you saw professional baseball as a way to support the fam.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
was there any debate for you of signing or going to college, or no? It was pretty
Yeah,
much automatic.
no, I mean, I had a couple offers coming out of high school, North Carolina State. I had a chance to go play football and baseball there. At the time, like I said, I lost my father, and it was like, what do I do? I felt like I could always go back to college and get my degree. It was an opportunity for me to get some money and get the family out and just move on from there. I got to the big leagues. It took me 10 long years, but if I had to do it all over again, I'd probably do the same thing.
That's a good. I'm glad you feel that way.
Correct.
You're 17 when you're drafted, and then you moved up got up to AAA pretty quick. By my math, you're 18 in A ball, 22 by the time you get to AAA. That's moving up pretty quick. That's a young in AA, AAA. And then you just kind of got stuck there for a little bit, huh?
Yeah, I got
Between
stuck. Like I said,
between Tacoma and Huntsville, and then with the Astros beyond that, right?
coming up during that time when I was with the A's, they had Dave Stewart, they had Bob Welch, they had,
Oh man,
uh, Mike Morris, they had, Kurt Young. The rotation was pretty steady
set.
then. It was set. So it wasn't like 22 years old. Although I'm 22. I'm like, man, I'm going to the big leagues. Especially
Yeah.
after the years I'd won 12 games in Modesto, and then the following year I went and won 13 games in Huntsville, and I had to end up going back to Huntsville to start the season, which I had won 13 games in that league. I'm thinking, okay, I got a chance to go to AAA next season at 21, 22. Some things happened at the big league level where I had to go. Kurt Young got sent back down to AAA that year, and I had to start back in AA. And I started out 2-0 in Huntsville that year, and then Kurt ended up going back to the big leagues, and then they called me back up to triple. They called me to AAA that year.
A little trickle down and trickle back up effect on
Oh,
that.
oh yeah, oh yeah, it happens.
I noticed I was looking through your career, and I know you were from Greenville. It looks like you were born in Greenville, North Carolina. Went to high school in Greenville, North Carolina. So, of all your years, of all the minor league baseball teams that are in North Carolina, you never once played professional baseball in North Carolina, really, right? You were with Louisville for a minute. So I don't know if you ever got a chance to shoot over to Charlotte, but did you ever play a professional baseball game in North Carolina?
We play. We happened to play in Zebulon. We
Yes,
played
sir.
in Zebulon the year I was with Huntsville, but I didn't get the
Okay.
pitch. I didn't get the pitch
I
in.
forgot Zebulon, the Carolina Mudcats kind of existed
Yeah, the
there. Yeah.
Mudcats. I didn't get to pitch there, and then they had the team in Charlotte. That was another place I didn't get to pitch, but I was with the team, but it was like, man, come on, I want to pitch here, and just
Right, right.
never
Did
got.
your fam get a chance to fly out and travel and see
Yeah,
pitch a lot?
yeah,
No?
yeah, Greenville's only like 30 minutes to Zebulon, 35 minutes to Zebulon, North Carolina. So I was able to see my family there in Zebulon, and they also came to Charlotte when I was playing the Charlotte Knights.
So 95, you move over to the Astros organization. What convinced you to sign with the Astros?
I was a 6-year minor league free agent. They'd offered me a contract to come into minor league camp. Of course, that was a strike year. I was a young kid. At that time I had a family, so I ended up signing with them. because I just felt like that was the best opportunity for me at that time.
Hmm. And was that a single 1 year contract that you signed 3 times?
It was a single 1 year contract, but I had a good year, so they kept re-signing me, and I kept pitching for them in Tucson, thinking again I was going to get to the big leagues with them. I pitched well for that organization, but things just didn't work out, and didn't make it to the big leagues with them.
98, you signed with the Brewers, and then you got the call on May 18th, so pretty much right near the beginning of the season. And you spent some time up in the big leagues. So tell me about that.
Jeff, it was amazing, man. I can remember it to this day how it all went down. I was actually sitting in the stands because I was charting because I was supposed to pitch the next day, and one of our PR guys, Dave Allen, he comes down and he goes, "Hey, they need to talk to you. They need to see you in the clubhouse." And I'm like, "Oh man, what's going on?"
Yeah.
So I'm like, is it something going on with the family? Something's wrong with my mom, and I never had any inkling that I was going to the big leagues at that
Really?
time. And I walked in the clubhouse, and Gary Allison was the AAA manager at the time, and he sat me down. And he goes, "Hey, you spent a lot of time in the minor leagues, and you're finally going to get your shot to pitch in the big leagues." And Jeff, I just broke down and start crying, man,
Yeah.
because you spend that long of a time in the minor leagues, 10 years, and then you finally get that call to the major leagues. Like I said, I broke down, and man, tears were just flowing down my face, and I
I
picked
get
up
it.
the phone. I called my mom. I called my wife at the time, and I just said, "Hey, I said, Mom, I did it. I said, I did it. She was like, what are you talking about?" I said, I'm going to the big leagues. Just sitting there in that chair and just thinking about all the hard times, the grind that I had to go through to get there. And the crazy thing is, I had just had my oldest son that year in February, and I told my wife, I was like, you know what? I said, if I don't get to the big leagues this year, I'm done. I'm gonna end up doing something else. And lo and behold, I get that call in May, and Bronswell Patrick is going to the big leagues, and it was so like rewarding for everything that I've done, over the course of those 10 years to be able to put on that big league uniform for the Brewers.
How about that first game on the mound?
First
How
game,
was that? Walking in the
I
clubhouse. I know there's let's say, a interesting situation that brought about your major league debut.
yeah, it was an interesting situation. It was, you know, let me backtrack a little bit. I got the call, and then I flew. I met the team in St. Louis. Um, I jumped on a plane, ended up meeting the team in St. Louis, and just, oh man, walking in the hotel, everybody congratulating me.
Right.
And then Bush Stadium was right close to the hotel that we were staying in. So we walked over to the ballpark, and when I walked in and I saw my name on the back of my jersey, and man, and then Phil Garner, who was the manager, I walked in and shook his hand, gave him a big hug, and he was like, "Hey man, it's been a long journey for you, but you're here now." And he goes, "Hey, just make the most of it." And he goes, "You're here. You did it." I didn't pitch that series. Um, we ended up going over to Colorado to play the Rockies, and Jeff Juden ended up getting.
Did your family fly out and meet you in St. Louis? Were they with you in Colorado
No,
at
it
home
was
watching on TV?
it was so quick,
Yeah.
Jeff, and everything was just happening so quick. So my mom she ran a daycare center, and she wasn't able to get everything in order at that time to be able to come out. So no, they didn't. My mom didn't make it out. My sister didn't make it out. But yeah, they were watching on TV.
I bet they
Just
felt it.
hoping. Oh yeah, they definitely felt it. They definitely felt it.
So back to your story, Jeff Jude in Colorado.
Yeah, so we're playing the Rockies and Big Jeff Juden, man, he was a horse. And
Absolutely.
uh I can't remember like vaguely how it all went down, but anyways, he ended up getting ejected. And after we sprinted all the way from the bullpen. We're playing in Colorado. I to the infield, and I'm out of breath, and I'm breathing heavy. Nothing happened. They threw Jeff Juden out of the game. I get back to the bullpen, and I hear the phone ring, and it was Bill Castro. Bill Castro was the bullpen coach. He was like, "Hey, Bruns, you're in the game. You're in the game." And I'm like, "Oh man, that heart
You
just
still get
started."
the adrenaline from everything else going. That's not the way you want to go in your first game. Not the way you want to
Oh,
run in there.
I know it. And then here I am warming up on the mound in front of about 25, 30,000 people. I'm warming. My heart is just pounding through my chest, and got loosed, and then in step Nefi Perez, and
Okay.
I was able to get Nefi Perez out. That was a big sigh of relief. I
Right.
just kind of took a big deep breath, and then Larry Walker comes up, and Mike Lansing, and I got through that inning. And
Yeah.
here I am thinking, oh man, I'm in the big leagues. I got Nefi Perez out. I got Larry Walker out. I got Mike
I can
Lansing.
do this. I could do this. Yeah, I could
Yeah,
survive.
yeah.
Yeah, I could do this.
So I got that confidence of being able to say, "Hey, man, I belong here."
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was, man, just being able to go out and get my feet wet. But I did it. I did it, Jeff.
That's the story. There's nothing boring
Yeah,
about your major league debut. That's for sure. You pitched well the rest of the game, right?
yeah, I did. I pitched well the rest of the game, and I don't remember like as far as the results. Like
Oh, I'll tell you.
I know I
I'll
did.
tell you. 3.1 innings pitched. Three hits. I can't remember handwriting. Three hits, a walk, one earned run, two strikeouts. That's a good debut.
There you go. Yeah, that was
There
a
you
great
go.
debut. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the
But I
rest of your
mean,
season. I'm sorry.
still being able to go through that lineup with Vanny Castillo, Todd
That's
Helton,
nuts.
Dante Bouchette.
Yeah.
Man, it was.
The Blake Street Bombers from back in the day.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah.
And then throughout the course of the season, I pretty much ended up staying in the big leagues that whole season with them. And I remember I got my first win in an extra inning game against Kansas City. Um, I believe, man, if I'm not wrong, I pitched like 6 innings in relief
Yeah, right.
that game
That's a good
because we
that's a quality start. I mean, it really is.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I ended up that was my first win in the big leagues. And the crazy thing is, I think around like in the 10th or 11th inning, Terry Pendleton hits a ground ball to first base,
Mm.
and I wasn't there to get to the bag, and so they scored a run that inning to tie it up. We continued to play, and I went out and I grounded out, another 5 innings after that, and we ended up winning the ball game.
That's a good highlight right there. That's a great highlight.
Yeah, it was
So
crazy.
you spent most of the rest of the season or the rest of the season in
I,
Milwaukee?
I spent the rest of the season in Milwaukee. Yeah.
What happened in the off season? What was your next move from there?
Off season, they ended up taking me off the roster. I thought I had pitched well enough to stay with the big league club, but I get it. I was a non-roster invitee. They needed the roster spot, so
Right.
I got DFA'd. Um, Ended up signing with the San Francisco Giants that offseason, minor league deal with the invitation to go to big league camp. Went to big league camp, was actually the last cut out of big league camp that year. It was between me and Miguel Del Toro. He ended up beating me out for that last relief role. I went to AAA. I did my thing. I ended up winning 14 games for Fresno that year, and I was rewarded with a September call up.
You had to go job hunting as another 6-year free agent again.
Same thing. They took me off the roster, and I ended up signing with the Florida Marlins. after the Giants had DFA'd me, and I ended up in Calgary for the Calgary Cannons. So, but let me go back my years with Milwaukee. So I was in the big leagues and that whole year with them pretty much. That was the year that Sammy Sosa and McGuire going for the home run record with Roger
Uh,
Maris. I ended up giving up number 61 to Sosa that year in 1998 in Wrigley Field. I think the ball is still going to this day. It was a hanging split that I left out over the plate, and as soon as he hit it, it sounded like a firecracker. I mean, it was like, bam, it's just, and as soon as he hit it, I knew it was gone, man. And then, he hits and he gives one of those, man. I'm like, oh, he got me. And
yeah.
you know, um, after that game, we played in Chicago. We ended up going to Cincinnati that night because we was playing the Reds, and my phone was ringing off the hook. People wanting to talk to me and ask me, how does it
How did it
feel giving.
feel?
Yeah, and I'm like, hey man, I gave up 61 to Sosa. Um, I took a few of those phone calls, and then finally I'm like, hey, do not disturb. I'm not taking any more calls
Yeah.
in the hotel room. So, but yeah, that was a great season, memories. Being with that group in 1998 with the Brewers, that's something I always cherish. Marquise Grissom, Scotty Carl, Bob Wickman,
Yeah.
J- Nelson Matheny, Jeremy Burnett, Darren Jackson. We had a Fernando Vina. We had a great group,
That's a
and
squad.
that was a squad. That was a squad, and that was the first year. 1998 was when the Brewers first entered the National League, and
You probably got some at bats under you too.
oh, I did. I ended up. It was funny. We was playing Arizona in Milwaukee. I was living in Arizona at the time. My family couldn't make it out to um, Milwaukee, but Phil Garner left me in the game to pitch. He was late in the game. He was like, "Hey, go ahead and you're gonna get in that bat." And the D-backs had Felix Rodriguez, who I ended up being a teammate with the following year in San Francisco, but he was the closer at the time for the D-backs. And Phil Garner was like, "Go ahead." And look, I hit my first home run in the major leagues off of Felix Rodriguez.
That's
Um,
amazing. I
yeah,
was not
that
expecting
that
to hear that. I did not look at your hitting history.
that that was my first home run, and we were playing the Arizona Diamondbacks. So my family that was living in Arizona, they got to see it, and oh man, it was something else, man.
As soon as
I
we get
didn't even.
done, I'm searching that on YouTube. As soon as we get done, for sure.
And then the funny thing too is when we ended up coming to Arizona playing the Diamondbacks, and Buck Showalter was the manager for the Diamondbacks. I got another at bat, and I just remember looking over at him, and he was pointing to the catcher like, "Hey, like he can hit, he can hit." He's a
That's
good hitting
great.
pitcher. So that was, man, that was like the highlight of my career, being able to, although I gave up number 61 to Sosa, but at the same time I was able to hit a home run in the big leagues. I, got my win in
I,
the big. San Francisco was great. I ended up getting my first win with the Giants on my birthday, which was September 16th, in Candlestick against the Marlins. People don't know this. They're probably thinking it's Rob Nen or Felix Rodriguez, but I got the last save in Candlestick Park.
that's awesome.
I picked up the last save in Candlestick Park. Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll probably say Rob Nan or Felix Rodriguez at the time, but nope.
right.
Bronswell Patrick got the last save in Candlestick Park.
That's great. What a time. A little bit more about me. I said I grew up around baseball, and my mom messed up and got me a Baseball America subscription when I was like 8 years old. So I
Yeah,
remember in those magazines, you flip to the back, and there's the international leagues, Japan, Korea, Mexico, and I always kind of had a real love following the international league. The affiliated minor leagues, they have the stat lines for everybody that plays, but in the foreign leagues, they just have the leaders. So there's this kind of a lack of information out there. And then the almanac came out at the beginning of the year, and there's a little bit more information on there. But there was just at that time, and now with the internet and baseball reference, you got some, but it was just so interesting to me that how they played baseball in the Netherlands. Now they play in Germany and everywhere else. That was kind of my obsession for a long time with that. And it still is. And now the game of baseball is really blown up. And man, the World Baseball Classic and professional players in the Olympics, that was just such a fun, exciting time when that started rolling out. So I'm just excited to hear about your time as a pitcher in Mexico. You pitched in Korea, coached and managed in Mexico, and the summer and winter leagues, correct?
Yeah.
So, man, just go on and tell us some stories and how that went. I'm fascinated by it. Baseball sent you around the world. I think that's just the coolest way to live a life.
Jeff, I was fortunate to, like I said, to be able to get to the big leagues and play professional baseball for a long time. I wanted to keep the uniform when I was a player as long as I could. And until finally either I knew I had enough or somebody just came up and said, give me a uniform, you're done. But I was going to put up a fight even if they did that. So after the season with the Calgary Cannons, with the Marlins, I couldn't find a job. And I'm scrambling, everybody's signing these contracts. And I'm like, man, I can't find a job. And so I contacted my agent, Oscar Suarez. And I said, Oscar, hey, man, is there anything in Mexico? He goes, I could probably get you down with the Mexico City Reds, which is the Mexico City Diablos. And I was like, hey, I'll take it, man. I'll go down there and play, hopefully put up some numbers and get a chance to come back to the States. And ended up going to Mexico City. And, oh, Jeff, I absolutely loved it.
I'm glad.
It was that ownership group with Roberto Mansour and that crew. It was first class. It was like playing basically for the Yankees down there.
That's a storied franchise of their history is basically the Yankees of Mexico League, and they run it that way.
Oh, they run it that way. It was we were the Yankees. I mean, we had Roberto Kelly, we had Felix Jose, Kevin Gryjek. We had more big leaguers, Roberto Ramirez.
Masters.
Yeah, we had some smashers. Sherman Obando, who had played in Japan a long time. We had a great group of guys on that team, and they just made me feel like I was at home. And so did the team. The clubhouse was nice. Playing facility was nice. The ball flew out of that ballpark, but I never had an issue pitching in that ballpark or just pitching in that league in general. People are like, oh, I'm going to Mexico. Pretty much easy baseball over there. That is wrong. They have some very talented players over there. Some players that probably could be playing in the big leagues, but they just want to be home in their country and being with their families. We had a shortstop, Jose Sandoval, and this guy could flat out pick it. Anything hit in his direction, it was out. We had Ray Martinez as a third baseman. Guys that left side of the diamond, they could flat out pick it.
It made you feel a little safer with that thin air.
Yeah, exactly. I'm throwing my sinker. I'm trying to get ground balls, and Miguel Ojeda was the catcher, and I developed a cutter throughout the minor leagues. So I brought that to Mexico, and guys weren't really used to that cutter and that split finger that I was throwing. I had some good years in Mexico. We ended up winning the championship that year, my first year over there, and it was a great setup with the hotel. They fed us.
How was the travel down there? You guys lots of nonstop air travel, buses?
It was buses. We had some long trips, but we had sleeper buses. But when I went back, after we won the championship, we had this nice luxury bus, double decker. Oh man, it was rock stars. It was like, hey man, Mexico City Diablos are coming to town, and we'd roll up in this bus, man, and people were like, whoa. The travel, being in that bus, made it so
Right.
much easier. Like you're riding on the bus for 10, 11 hours at times, right. But just being in that bus, man, it had food, we had water, and everything that you could ask for. After I played a couple of years over there, we were actually playing Yucatan in the playoffs one year. There was a Korean scout He was there to see another player from Yucatan. It was me and him battling it out. It was a pitcher's duel. He went seven. I think I went 7 innings, gave up 1 run. We ended up winning 2-1. And right after the game, this guy comes up to me. He goes, "Hey, it was a Korean scout," and he goes, "Hey, we're interested in signing you." And we worked out a deal for me to go to Korea that following season. And what an interesting uh, journey playing with the Samsung Lions, because Jeff, I don't know how I did it, but being in Mexico City with a team that is like the Yankees, I ended up playing for the Samsung Lions,
Hmm.
who was one of the best teams in Korea at that time. And it was like,
I can tell you how you did it. You worked your tail off. You knew what you were doing
yeah,
out there. You worked your
yeah,
tail off for however many years, and you accomplished that. And you're a good pitcher. That's how you
yeah,
accomplished playing for those teams in North America and Asia.
yeah. And I ended up with the Samsung Lions, and there was another team, like they were the Yankees
Yeah,
of Korea. We had a guy, Lee Sung-myopo, was a first baseman. My first year over there, he hit 54 home runs that year I was there, and we ended up winning the championship that year. But that in
that's
itself was a
incredible.
little. Oh, it
That's
was
incredible. You got the back to back, two completely different things. That's incredible.
two completely different teams,
Yeah.
two completely different countries,
Yeah.
and here I am playing for the best teams.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was being in Korea, my first year. It like when I go out to buy food, or I go to the grocery store to get groceries, people just wanted to come up and touch me,
It's crazy.
um, because I was big, and they just wanted to come up and just touch me. And it kind of made me feel a little bit uncomfortable the first time through, because I've never had that. I was like, I mean, why do these people touch me?
The
I don't
first
know
one
why
does
you
it.
touch me.
That's weird. The second one does it, and by the time the 50th person touches you, you're like, okay, I guess this is my life
Yeah, I'm
now.
like, right, exactly. So, and oh, baseball, baseball, baseball. I'm like, yeah,
Oh
baseball.
wow,
I'm playing baseball over there. A little strange in itself when it first started happening. They touched me and going to the supermarket and going to restaurants. And finally, I called my interpreter. I was like, hey, I need this, because I don't want to keep going to the grocery store and just feeling like these people are watching me
right.
and wanting to touch me. So it kind of made me feel a little bit uncomfortable with the first time through, but it faded, towards the middle of the season, towards the end. Once they start seeing me on TV, and like, oh, and
They
then
see you in the grocery store enough times, you're just their neighbor by
yeah,
that point.
yeah.
Yeah.
At that point, I'm just a neighbor. I'm just there. So that was fun, just being able to you know play in that atmosphere over there, because they got the drums and they're clapping, the whole game, and they got the cheerleaders. And the ballparks are small over there, but once again, and I got to use my sinker.
I'm gonna get some ground outs, and it
I,
doesn't
I, I
matter.
got to get some rest. Yeah, I'll try to keep the ball out of air as much as possible when I'm pitching Tegu. But the stadiums over there, Incheon, Seoul, Busan, the Kia Tigers, the stadiums they were good stadiums, and they packed it in. So I
Yeah.
was I was really surprised on the fan base of how they support their teams. Whether you're in last place, whether you're in first place, I mean, every stadium it was sold out. The stadiums were sold out.
Did you feel comfortable over there when you
Yeah,
first arrived?
in Korea.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did. My interpreter pretty much went everywhere I
for the
went.
interpreter.
So, the good thing about it, Jeff, is when I signed with the Korean team, I was actually living in Arizona at the time, and we had spring training in Arizona.
Awesome.
We had spring training out in Peoria, and so
That was a
You know,
good way to ease into it, I guess.
it was a great way to ease into it. My interpreter was great. Like we hit it off right away. I had to rely on him because I didn't know any Korean and I didn't know anything once I got to Korea. So, I relied heavily on him just to guide me through.
After that, it's just baseball. If you get your interpreter to help you with everything else, just baseball.
It's baseball. It's baseball. You still got to go out on the diamond, 6 feet 6 inches, and play baseball. And I didn't do too much my first year as far as exploring. It was all new to me, and I knew I had to have him 24/7 if I wanted to do something or go anywhere. I had a 3 bedroom apartment, like on the 16th floor. I mean, it was great, man. Just overlooking the city. Um, I couldn't ask for anything better as far as like how they treated me over there and just the living. We got everything we needed from that team, and they made us feel like, you're not home in the U.S., but this is your home for the next 9 months, basically. And it was great. It was great. I wish I would have had a better season over there, but I mean, hey man, just getting that opportunity to go over there and play baseball and see the different culture was outstanding.
I read a thing. Mark Teahen, if you remember him, for the Royals and White Sox, he retired, and then the club in Italy contacted him and said, "Hey, would you want to come play baseball in Italy?" He probably hadn't picked up a bat in 6 or 9 or 12 months. He was like, "Yeah." One of the quotes he said was like, "I didn't go to Italy to play baseball. I played baseball to go to Italy." I think that's just so rad. Like you do it. You can see the world through. And for a guy
Yeah.
who, when you were 17, Arizona was exotic. To be able to see the world, that's just so cool. After Korea, you went back to Mexico for a few seasons. You spent some time in Taiwan as well. How
Yeah,
did that compare?
I went back to Mexico, and then I ended up getting a call from the brother Elephants. Hey, Jeff, like I said, I
Don't tell me
couldn't.
this is the Yankees again.
It was the Yankees again, man. I'm like,
Oh man.
I'm like, I'm like, you couldn't ask for a better situation going overseas and playing with these teams that I play with. I get a phone call, from my agent again, Oscar Suarez. Hey, there's a team in Taiwan. They're looking for a pitcher. Are you interested? I was at the end of my career. I'm like, you know what? Let's do it. I go over and I'm with the brother Elephants. Everywhere we went, it was sold out. We had great players. Even my best friend was on that team, Jonathan Hurst. Just walked into a great situation, being able to pitch for the brother Elephants over there. And Jonathan, he had already been over there for a few years. As soon as I landed in Taiwan, they gave me a cell phone, and I picked up the phone. I called him. I'm like, "Hey man, I'm here. I'm here." We didn't live too far from each other, downtown Taipei. He came over. His wife was Taiwanese, and
Really?
she spoke English. I was like, "Hey, where's some good food that I can just crush because I'm starving?" Right? They ended up taking me to this American restaurant. Like, I'm like, whoa, time out,
Best
time out.
cheeseburgers in town.
I'm like, I'm in
Yay.
Taipei. I'm in Taipei. I want something else. But
Right.
they ended up taking me to this American restaurant, which wasn't too far from where I lived. And I, I, I became friends with the owner over there, and she was just every time I would just call her and like, hey, I'm coming in. The bacon, the egg, the any sandwich I wanted, Jeff, she made for me. I would do it every once in a while because I don't miss too many meals. I like to eat. So I wanted to try all the foods while I was over there, and I did. So, but just being there, having my best friend on the team showing me around, I felt very safe. And the only bad part about it was we had to walk to the base of the clubhouse, get dressed. We had to get on a bus because we didn't actually have a stadium in Taipei. It was like 45 minutes outside of
Oh, for
Taipei.
real.
So we had every game, we had to walk to the clubhouse, get dressed downtown, get on the bus, and then take another 45-minute trip to our home ballpark. But
And then
even there,
the way back after the game, that seems like that'd be exhausting for sure.
that's what I'm saying. You got to get on the bus, take another 45-minute bus ride back to your clubhouse, shower, change, and then head home. But Man, I loved every minute of it. Like you said, being able to travel and seeing different parts of the world and playing baseball at that, the game that I love, it was great. You can't expect it's going to be like the States. You can't expect, hey, when you walk in the clubhouse, it's going to be a plush clubhouse where you got the carpet. You just have to have an open mind when it comes to that. When you're going anywhere overseas to play baseball, for me, um, just being able to enjoy the moment. I just enjoyed the moment when I was there and just took everything in. And days that we had off, it was like just go out and explore the city in Taipei and just see everything. The only issue I had was, of course, they have the gambling and all that. So that was going on at the time.
If you keep your head down and kind of do your thing, hopefully you're safe from that.
Exactly. So I didn't get involved with that. Hey, man, I got approached a couple of times, but I was like, no, I'm not interested in doing that. I'm not going to be looking over my shoulders when I'm walking down the street. I don't want to get involved with that. The unfortunate situation happened. I was there when Mario Encarnacion ended up passing away. And
As soon as you said about the danger, I remember somebody passed away over there, but I can't remember who it was.
yeah, that was the year I was there. They found him in his room, foaming from the mouth. So that was the only thing that scared me because I was there that year when it happened. It was it was towards the end of our season,
Good.
and we made the playoffs, we rolled in the playoffs, but we ended up losing that first round of the playoffs. Soon as the playoffs was over, Jeff, I jumped on the first thing that was smoking out of Taipei to get back home,
Right.
man.
I sat down, buckled that seatbelt, and just, oh, wow. I made it. I made
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
you said you were going to play until they ripped the jersey off you. And you did, pretty much. You had a healthy career. Do you have any injury problems?
I did. I had some issues in Mexico City where I had to have surgery. I had bone spurs removed. There was times when I pitched in Mexico. I'd pitch. I wouldn't pick up a ball for 4 days because I was in so much pain. And that fifth day, I had a baseball in my hand pitching, going 6 innings, and then I'd do it again. I wouldn't pick up a ball for another 4 days. I'd play catch a little bit before the game, and I'd pitch. It just got to the point where it was unbearable, where I couldn't do it anymore. Um, and I ended up having surgery down in Mexico City in Toluca. Dr. Cuauhtemoc, who had done a lot of the Latin ball players surgeries, and he did it that year. I talked to the team and I was like, hey, I want to do my rehab back in Arizona. So they allowed me to come back home after my surgery. I did my rehab here and I tried to go back the following year to play. And Jeff, I just didn't have it, man. I don't know if it was my rehab, didn't do it right, didn't do everything I was supposed to do, but my velocity was down. I bounced around. Mexico City, they was like, "Hey, we're gonna send you to Tabasco, where it's like 1,000 degrees." It was hot, man. It was like the sun was right here, man. Oh man, it was smoking hot. So I ended up playing for them, and then it got to be a financial situation where it was like, "We're gonna pay you guys tomorrow, and we're gonna pay you guys tomorrow." Never got paid. I'm not going to come out here and pitch if you're not going to pay me. They ended up sending me over to Yucatan after I wasn't getting paid with Tabasco, and I pitched 4 or 5 games with Yucatan, and then the owner comes and tells me, "I'm paying you too much money to sit for every fourth or fifth day and pitch." I'm like, "I'm a starting pitcher. You signed me to be a starting pitcher, so every 4 days before I pitch again." They ended up letting me go, and pretty much that was a sign of me saying, you know what, I'm just gonna wrap it up, and retire.
By that time, you're fine with that decision. Wasn't much of a
Yeah,
decision that's on that. Huh?
I took a year off. Just kind of wanted to regroup and spend time with my family. Lived in Arizona at the time, so I started going out to the ballparks. I went over to Kansas City. I went over to San Diego, just the teams that were around. And Grady Fuson, who, um,
Farm director of the A's for a minute. Been
yeah,
with him for a
yeah,
while.
yeah, exactly. And then he was the farm director for the Padres at that time.
Oh,
And I went over, I talked to him. He was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Man, I'm just taking a year off, and I might want to get into coaching." He's like, "Oh, why don't you come out to instructional league to see if you want to do this?" So I did like a week of an instructional league with the Padres. He goes, "What do you think? You want to do it?" And he goes, "If you want to do it, I have a job for you." And I was like, "Of course." He goes, "I'll give you the rookie ball job. You can be the rookie ball pitching coach here in Arizona for the Padres." And sure enough, I couldn't have walked into a better situation. Someone that I knew, someone that I had with the A's back when I signed when I was 17 years old, because Grady was with the A's at that time. Grady was actually managing our Medford ball club when I signed with the A's out of high school. So like I said, he was a farm director with the Padres, and he offered me the job, and I took it, and I spent 12 years in the Padres organization as a pitching coach.
So you tell you how you end up with the Yankees and then Yankees again and the Yankees again, and you lucked into this job the Padres, but it's not luck, man. It's just you worked your tail off. When you signed as a 17-year-old, if you had been a bum, and then you bumped into Grady Fuson a few years later, he would have been like, "Oh, well, nice talking to you. See you later." But you worked your tail off for so many years, and people had
Yeah,
positive recollection of you. So that's not luck. It's you make your own luck, and you did for a long time.
right, right. Yeah, I did. Like I said, I cherish every minute of my experiences.
We've never met in person except for I watched you on a mound in 1992, possibly. You don't get to where you are by being a jerk. Obviously the way you treat people, in addition to how you are on the mound and on your days off, and even probably how hard you chart on those days you're not charting.
Yeah,
All that stuff that brought you to where you are and brought you to those places that you went to.
right. I mean, I'm very organized, and being the minor league pitching development coordinator for the A's. People look at my desk and they're like, "Man, you're so organized," but that's just me. That's the
One another way
workout.
to separate yourself from the pack, from the rest of the
Yeah,
people.
you always got to be prepared, and that way it doesn't sneak up on you. And then if it does sneak up on you, you've already prepared yourself for that situation, so you know how to handle it.
So after the Padres, for how many years did you say? Is a coach of the
12,
Padres?
12, 12 years with the Padres.
You went back down to Mexico to coach, and also at that time period, you were coaching winter ball down there
Yeah,
too, right?
I hit my head right now, Jeff. I got frustrated with the Padres because I was 6 years being their AAA
Yeah.
pitching coach in El Paso, and they fired Darren Balsley, and I didn't get an interview, and that was
I get
2019.
it. I get it.
2019, AZ Pro is looking for a new pitching coach, and I'm like, oh, man, at least I'm gonna get an interview, and I didn't, and I was hurt. First of all, I was very like frustrated on why um, I didn't get an interview. So they had offered me a 2-year deal to come back to be the AAA pitching coach, and my pride set in, Jeff, and I can't go and sit back in a meeting, in a big league meeting, because I was a
Mhm.
AAA pitching coach, knowing I didn't get a shot. And
I get it. This experience is something that these things happen in the real civilian world. Whether if you're working at a bank, working as a farmer, working at Walmart, these kind of things happen in real life. We civilians can relate.
yeah, and
Uh,
and so you get it, and that's why I told my wife I'm going to type up a resignation letter, and I'm going to resign.
I agree.
Can't burn any bridges in this game. It was like, hey, I need to look somewhere else and find someone that's going to value me. And I sent it in. They called, and hey, we want you. We don't want you to leave. And at that time, Jeff, I'd already made up my mind to say, hey, that was it with the Padres. And I I left thinking I had another job with another team, and then COVID hit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
COVID hit, and team
It
that I
changed the world. I worked in baseball until 2013. I got out, and that COVID year, man, that was such a blur. My son was born February 4th. We were living in Clearwater, right around the corner from the Phillies complex. I was so excited, and then the world just changed and everything was just weird. I'm so curious as an outsider looking, trying to figure out how people reacted to that. I mean, I'm almost as interested in that 2020 COVID year as I am your time in Mexico and Korea. That's just something that's just a once in a lifetime, hopefully, experience.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
So then COVID hit.
Yeah, Kobe hit, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to sign with that team, and they were like, no, we're not
Having
hiring
minor league
right now.
baseball this year.
Yeah, we're not even having minor league baseball. So here I am. I'm scrambling, trying to find a job, and Tijuana calls me. Hey, we need a pitching coach. And I was living in Southern California at the time. You're our guy. And so I jumped on it right away. Ended up signing with the Tijuana Toros. Same thing. We started spring training in March. We was getting ready to start playing some games, and then all of a sudden, it's like we had
Pause button.
everything just stopped. We're gonna shut everything down. We're gonna give you guys a week off, so we can figure this out if we're gonna have a season or not. And the week goes by, didn't hear anything. Um, I'm calling, and then finally they're like, "We're not having a season," and I'm like, "Uh-oh." Uh-oh, you're not having a season. What's going on with my salary?
Right.
You guys guaranteed me my
2 year
contract.
deal.
We ended up getting a little bit of money, but it wasn't what my contract was
Expecting.
supposed to be. So I was like, okay, it is what it is. 2 year deal. That 2020 season was a wash, and then 2021. I went back to them and we ended up winning the championship in 2021 with the Toros. We get to the finals, Jeff, and we're down 7 game series. We're down 3-0 to Yucatan.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh man, season's about to be over. So we're in Yucatan. Game 4 was rained out. Um, so that gave me an opportunity to we brought our ace back.
Who was
And
that?
we had Carlos Hernandez at the time, a left-handed pitcher. But that whole staff was stacked, man. I had Fernando Rodney, I had Oliver Perez, I had Mike Tonkin, who was in the big leagues last year with the Yankees and Minnesota. Jake Sanchez, who was a good arm in the bullpen. We were stacked. Bernardo Bernardino, who pitched with the Red Sox the last few years. Our bullpen was stacked, so it was like, man, starter, just give me 5 innings, and then we're gonna turn it over to the bullpen because we know this bullpen is gonna hold us to where we need to be. And sure enough, we end up bringing Carlos Hernandez back to pitch. He dealt. And then we won that game. So it's 3-1. We win another game over there. So it's 3-2. And ended up coming back home and we swept them 4 straight to end up winning the championship down after being down 3-0.
Oh
And
man.
where you're down 3-0 and you come back
Yeah.
to win, it doesn't happen too often. And we were able to do that. And it was like I said, having Oliver Perez and Fernando Rodney, those guys knew, like, after being in the big leagues for so long, they just lifted everybody up. Like, hey, come on, fellas, we got this. We can do this. And sure enough, we turned it around.
That's great.
It was
I say you
awesome.
enjoyed
It
your,
was
your
awesome.
2 years as a coach down there, and you were also involved in winter ball. That's meant
Yeah, yeah, I did. I
pitching and
did the
managing.
winter ball thing down there. I managed down there. I was a pitching coach for Hermosillo 3 years. And then they offered me my first manager's job to be the manager in Hermosillo once again, who's a very good team. They're Hermosillo, those guys, they do it right. So I was able to be the manager for Hermosillo after being the pitching coach for 3 years, and took them to the playoffs. Just couldn't get over the hump. We lost. Our pitching just didn't hold up. So we ended up losing that first series. Um, and then I get fired because Vinny Castillo wanted to manage. And Vinny Castillo, who's the man down in
Yeah,
Mexico.
based.
And I ended up going over to Mexicali and being the pitching coach in Mexicali um, for a couple of years. And then that third year being in Mexicali, our manager, we started at 0-10, and they came to me and like, hey, you managed before. Do you want to take over this team? I'm like, and we're 0-10. I was like, I mean, I said, I'll take it over. I'll take it over, but you guys got to guarantee me that I'm coming back to be the manager next year. I'm starting at the bottom, you know. And Jeff, we won 10 straight games. 10 straight
Back to 500
games.
real quick.
Back to 500 real quick. We ended up just rolling through that league, go to the playoffs. And to this day, I'm so upset because I know the guy was out at home in the playoffs. Game 6, he was out. They call him safe. Instant replay. It was clear as day. His hand never touched home plate. They called him safe. We ended up losing that game, and that was it. That was the series, and we lost the first round of playoffs that year. I came back the following year to manage that club.
And that's it. That's where the show ends. I was planning on this being a 30, 45-minute conversation. But like I said, we just hit it off, and we just got to talking. And the next thing you know, it's an hour and a half in, and there's technical difficulties. And we break up, and it was getting late. Mr. Patrick at spring training was just starting. About to have some really busy long days, so didn't bother him and call him back. We'll hopefully catch up maybe November, December after baseball season sometime. But I hope you enjoyed the show. And Mr. Bronswell Patrick, if you're listening, if you made it this far, buddy, such a great time. If you're ever in the Tampa Bay area, hit me up. If I'm ever in the Phoenix, Arizona area, I'm going to hit you up.